Did you know a black scientist helped revolutionize the way we treat everything from arthritis to glaucoma?
Really?
It's true. He even invented a fire-retardant foam used in World War II. And get this, he did it all using the humble soybean.
It sounds almost unbelievable, but that's the story of Percy Julian, one of the most brilliant and groundbreaking chemists of the 20th century.
Okay, I'm hooked. We're diving into the life of Percy Julian today, and I have to admit, I don't know much about him. But soybeans, fire-retardant foam, and groundbreaking medicine. I'm ready to learn more.
You're in for a treat. His story is about so much more than just scientific achievement. It's about overcoming incredible odds, challenging deeply rooted prejudice, and leaving an indelible mark on the world.
We're working with a biography here, right? Let's dive into those early years. Percy Julian was born in 1899 in Montgomery, Alabama. Paint a picture of what his life was like back then.
Imagine the South in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Segregation was the norm. Opportunities for Black people were incredibly limited, and access to quality education was a constant struggle. Percy was the grandson of enslaved people, so his family had already faced immense hardship.
It must have been a completely different world. Did his family background impact his interest in science?
Absolutely. Both of his parents were educators. They instilled in him a deep love for learning and believed that knowledge was the key to a better life. They even went so far as to create a home library for their children, filling it with books.
Wow. A home library. That's pretty incredible for that time, especially considering the limited access to education for Black people in the South.
Exactly. It highlights how dedicated his parents were to his education. They saw his potential and did everything they could to nurture it.
But then he hit a major roadblock. There were no public high schools for Black children in the entire South. What did he do?
This is where Percy's determination really shines through. He didn't let this stop him. Instead, he set his sights on DePaul University in Indiana, a predominantly white institution. Leaving everything he knew behind to pursue higher education was a huge decision, but he was determined to get a good education.
Talk about taking a leap of faith. Was DePaul welcoming?
It was definitely a culture shock. He faced social isolation, prejudice, you name it. He was one of the very few Black students at DePaul. Imagine walking through town and being denied service at restaurants simply because of the color of your skin.
That must have been incredibly disheartening. How did he cope with that kind of treatment?
He channeled his energy into his studies. To catch up with his peers, he had to take extra remedial classes while working as a waiter and sleeping in an attic just to make ends meet.
Hold on. He was working, taking extra classes, and dealing with prejudice. That's some serious dedication.
It's a testament to his resilience and unwavering focus. And here's the incredible part. Despite all these challenges, he graduated in 1920 as class valedictorian.
Wow. What an achievement. So, valedictorian, a bright future ahead. You'd think graduate school would be a sure thing, right?
You'd think so. Sadly, that wasn't the case. Despite his exceptional academic record, Percy was denied entry to every graduate school he applied to in the United States. The reason? His race.
You're kidding. That's just outrageous. After all that hard work and dedication.
It's a stark reminder of the systemic racism that permeated institutions at the time. Even brilliance wasn't enough to overcome those barriers. But this is Percy Julian we're talking about. He didn't let this defeat him.
So what did he do? Where did he go from there?
He looked beyond the borders of the United States and set his sights on Europe. He ended up pursuing his PhD in Vienna, Austria.
Vienna. Why Vienna?
It's fascinating, actually. Vienna's scientific community at the time was a hotbed of intellectual exchange. They were pushing boundaries and challenging conventional thinking. Perhaps this open-mindedness created a more welcoming environment for a brilliant mind like Percy's, regardless of his race.
That makes sense. He's finally in a place where his talent was recognized and celebrated, not hindered by prejudice. Did he make any significant breakthroughs during his time in Vienna?
Absolutely. He achieved something remarkable, the total synthesis of physostigmine.
Okay, break that down for me. What's so special about synthesizing physostigmine?
Before Julian's breakthrough, the only way to get physostigmine was to extract it from the calabar bean, a rare and expensive source. It was primarily used to treat glaucoma, but the limited supply made it incredibly expensive and inaccessible to most people who needed it.
So he basically found a way to create this life-saving drug from scratch. That's huge.
Exactly. His work revolutionized the production of physostigmine, making it far more affordable and available to those who needed it. It was a game changer in the field of medicine.
Wow, a true scientific victory. Did this success finally open doors for him back in the U.S.?
Unfortunately, no. Even with this groundbreaking achievement under his belt, American academia remained resistant.
You got to be kidding me. This is just mind-boggling.
It is, isn't it? It really underscores the deeply ingrained prejudice he was up against. But as you'll see, Percy Julian was not one to be deterred. He would find a way to make his mark even if it meant forging a new path.
Okay, this is already so much more than I expected. He was clearly a man on a mission. So what happened next? Where did this new path lead him?
Well, this is where we see Percy Julian step out of the world of academia and into the private sector, joining the Glidden Company. And this, my friend, is where the soybean revolution begins.
Hold on, soybeans. You're telling me this incredible scientist who synthesized a vital medicine in Vienna ended up working with soybeans. I'm intrigued.
Trust me, it's more exciting than it sounds. This is where his ingenuity truly shines. Percy Julian saw potential in this humble legume that others overlooked.
Okay, before we get to the soybeans, let's take a quick pause. We'll be back in a moment to continue our deep dive into the remarkable life of Percy Julian.
You know, it's fascinating how Julian's career took this turn. Here's a scientist who could have been at the forefront of academic research, but because of the barriers he faced, he ends up at a paint company.
Wait, Glidden? Like the paint company Glidden? What did soybeans have to do with paint?
Well, back then, Glidden was more than just paint. They were heavily invested in using agricultural products for industrial applications.
So what exactly did he do with these soybeans? It's not exactly the first thing that comes to mind when you think of groundbreaking chemistry.
This is where Julian's true genius shines through. He saw the potential of the soybean, this humble legume, in ways that no one else had before. He developed innovative methods for extracting soybean protein and oil, which led to a whole slew of advancements.
Like what? Give me some examples.
For starters, he figured out how to produce a water-based paint from soybean oil. It was a game changer for the industry because it was more durable, less smelly, and dried faster than traditional oil-based paints.
Okay, I see how that connects to Glidden's core business. But you mentioned groundbreaking chemistry earlier. Was it all about paint?
Not even close. He didn't stop at paint. He went on to develop a process for isolating sterols from soybean oil. These sterols became the building blocks for synthesizing hormones like progesterone and testosterone, which were crucial for treating a variety of medical conditions.
Hold on, are you saying that he figured out how to make human hormones from soybeans?
Exactly. Before Julian's work, these hormones were primarily extracted from animal sources, which was expensive and often yielded limited quantities. His process revolutionized hormone production, making these treatments far more affordable and accessible.
This is incredible. So he helped revolutionize the paint industry and medical treatments, all thanks to soybeans.
He didn't stop there. During World War II, he used his knowledge of soybean protein to create aerofoam. It was a fire-retardant foam that was used to extinguish fires on ships and airplanes. It saved countless lives.
Wow. So from treating arthritis to putting out fires, his work had a real impact on people's lives. This is blowing my mind. It sounds like he was driven by more than just scientific curiosity. Did he ever go back to academia?
You know, he always wanted to teach and do research at a university. He even applied for a position at DePaul, his alma mater, where he had faced so much discrimination. They rejected him.
Are you serious? After all of his achievements, they still wouldn't give him a chance? I'm speechless.
It's a stark reminder of the deeply entrenched racism he faced throughout his career. But Percy Julian didn't let that stop him. Instead, he took another leap of faith and founded his own company, Julian Laboratories, in 1954.
His own company. That must have been a huge risk at the time.
It was, but Percy Julian was a visionary. He wasn't just a scientist, he was an entrepreneur. He wanted to create opportunities for others, to build a legacy that went beyond his own achievements.
So he built a successful business, revolutionized medicine, and even helped with the war effort. It seems like he was living the American dream. But I remember you mentioned earlier that his house was firebombed. When did that happen?
That horrific incident happened in 1951, right after he and his family moved into a predominantly white suburb of Oak Park, Illinois.
That's horrifying. To face that kind of hatred and violence after all he had accomplished, it's hard to fathom. What impact did that have on him? Did it discourage him from continuing his work?
Actually, it seemed to make him even more determined. He refused to be intimidated. He and his family stood their ground and continued to fight for their right to live where they chose.
That takes incredible courage. It sounds like his experiences with discrimination fueled his activism.
Absolutely. He wasn't content with just personal success. He used his platform and resources to champion civil rights, advocating for equality and justice.
So he wasn't just breaking down scientific barriers, he was fighting for social change as well. Tell me more about his activism. What did he do specifically?
Well, he donated generously to civil rights organizations, mentored young black scientists, and used his influence to advocate for equal opportunities in education and employment.
He was really putting his money where his mouth was, making a concrete difference. It's inspiring to see someone use their success to lift up others.
It's a reminder that true success isn't just about personal gain, it's about making a positive impact on the world around you. And Percy Julian understood that.
Okay, We've talked about his upbringing, his scientific achievements, his activism. But what about his legacy? How is he remembered today?
His legacy is multifaceted and incredibly impactful. First and foremost, he's a scientific pioneer. His work with soybeans led to major advancements in medicine, industrial applications, and even wartime technology.
And let's not forget those 100 patents he holds.
Exactly. His innovative spirit and groundbreaking research earned him numerous awards and accolades.
But his legacy extends far beyond just the scientific realm, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. He's a powerful symbol of resilience, of triumph over adversity. His story demonstrates that talent and hard work can overcome prejudice and discrimination. He paved the way for future generations of Black scientists, engineers, and entrepreneurs.
His story is an inspiration, especially for young people facing their own obstacles. It's a reminder that they, too, can achieve great things regardless of their background or the challenges they may face.
You know, it's interesting to think about how his life might have been different had he been given equal opportunities from the start. What could he have achieved if he hadn't faced so much discrimination?
It's a sobering thought, but even in the face of adversity, he accomplished so much. I'm curious, for you personally, what is the most important lesson we can learn from Percy Julian's life?
That's a great question. For me, it's the power of perseverance. He never gave up on his dreams, never stopped pursuing knowledge, and never stopped fighting for a better world, even when faced with incredible challenges.
He never let those barriers define him. He broke through them time and time again. It's truly inspiring. Okay, before we wrap up our deep dive into Percy Julian's remarkable life, let's take a quick pause. We'll be back in a moment to reflect on what we've learned and what it means for us today. You know, Percy Julian's story, it's a powerful reminder that limitations are often self-imposed. He faced so much adversity, yet he never allowed those challenges to define him.
It's a testament to the strength of the human spirit. He had every reason to give up, to become resentful, but instead he channeled his energy into pushing boundaries and making the world a better place.
It really makes you think about all the other Percy Julians out there, brilliant minds who might be struggling to reach their full potential because of similar barriers. What a loss for society when talent is ignored or suppressed.
It is a sobering thought. But Percy Julian's story also offers a glimmer of hope. It shows us that change is possible, that even the most deeply entrenched systems can be challenged and overcome.
It's a reminder that each of us has a role to play in creating a more just and equitable world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
And that's where I think Julian's legacy really shines. He wasn't just fighting for himself, he was fighting for future generations, for a world where opportunities wouldn't be limited by race or any other arbitrary factor.
His story has certainly given me a lot to think about. As we wrap up this deep dive into Percy Julian's life, I have to ask, what's your soybean? What's that challenge you're uniquely positioned to tackle? The contribution you're meant to make?
That's a powerful question. It's a call to action for all of us. What are those seemingly ordinary things in our lives, those soybeans that we can transform into something extraordinary?
It's about recognizing our own potential, just like Percy Julian did, and using it to make a positive impact on the world.
And remember, impact doesn't have to be on a grand scale. It can start small in our own communities. By mentoring someone, speaking up against injustice, or pursuing our own passions with that same relentless determination that Percy Julian embodied.
He showed us that limitations are often self-imposed, that with persistence and courage, we can break down barriers and achieve remarkable things. He also reminded us that even in the face of hatred and adversity, we can choose to rise above and create a better world.
So let's all be inspired by Percy Julian's indomitable spirit. Let's find our soybeans, embrace the challenges, and strive to make a difference, however big or small.
That's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the truly remarkable life of Percy Julian. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep pushing boundaries.